Station with attitude. KCC Live.
Hi there, you're listening to Amy on Out There on KCC Live. Welcome to our new show. We're going to be talking about mind, body and soul. So that is such a vast subject and I'm not going to go into everything, every little detail. But I thought we could have a look at various therapies. We can talk a little about mental health, about mindfulness and about things like gay cure therapy as well, the other side of it, especially for the LGBT community and how LGBT people are treated around the world. So stay tuned because there's more after this.
This is KCC Live.
Hi, welcome back to Out There on KCC Live. You're listening to Amy. So as always, our show today is going to have lots of people contributing and lots of different voices and different opinions. I wanted to kick it off with talking about gay cure therapies. So gay cure therapy is something that has been around for a very, very long time, and it's when people think they can fix people who identify as gay. Historically, there's been loads of different ways that that's been done. One of the most famous is aversion therapy. So a person who is thought of as homosexual will be shown images that the people believe are of a homosexual nature, and then, you know, show them, make them feel sick or give them electric shocks and stuff like that. It is proven to work, but it's not a good way to do it, if you like, and it's not 100%, and it's literally just you make someone scared of a single thing so you can condition a person to a single thing. So if you look at the film A Clockwork Orange, if you've not seen it, it's quite an edgy film. It can be quite upsetting, so we'll give you that little trigger warning there. But if you have ever seen it, it's the same sort of idea. So in the film, the lead character is given aversion therapy for not for being homosexual but for being violent, and it turns out because they play Beethoven in the background while they're sort of giving him this aversion therapy, every time he hears Beethoven he becomes really ill and really sick, and that's what can happen because you don't always associate it with homosexuality and feelings of attractiveness. So aversion therapy isn't always great. Of course, there's also things like being starved, being exercised, would you believe, being beaten, praying the gay away, as a lot of the more religious sort of things come into it. There's a lot of different things. So Richie has done us a little piece about gay cure and gay cure therapy, and after that we're going to hear a little bit from Josh Parry from The Echo, who actually went and investigated a church in Liverpool, would you believe, that was offering gay cure therapy.
Hi, I'm Richie. I'm going to be talking a little bit about gay cure therapy or gay conversion therapy. Some people do believe that it can be cured, and it is an actual thing. So conversion therapy or cure therapy refers to any form of treatment or psychotherapy which aims to reduce or stop same-sex attraction or suppress a person's gender identity, and is based on the assumption that being lesbian, gay, bi or trans is a mental illness that can be cured. But these therapies are both unethical and harmful. There has been calls for the government to ban gay conversion therapy because it's illegal for the NHS to provide it. It's illegal for any medical professional to provide it, but it's not illegal to provide gay conversion therapy. There was an Echo investigation last year where an undercover reporter went to a church in Breck Road in Liverpool and found that they were offering gay conversion therapy through starving. So you would starve yourself for, I think it was 2 or 3 days, and then you'd be cured. Yeah. Now, Josh Parry, who undertook the undercover investigation for the Liverpool Echo at the local church in Anfield, he was interviewed on Good Morning Britain with Piers Morgan, and here's what he had to say. Again, in some countries, though, it is rife. In America, it happens quite a lot. And evidence suggests that lesbian, gay and bi-trans people continue to experience these harmful therapies. And unethical attitudes research found that 1 in 10 health and social care staff have witnessed colleagues express a belief that sexual orientation can be cured, which rises to 1 in 5 among health and care staff in London. A 2009 survey found that over 1,300 accredited mental health professionals found that more than 200 had offered some form of conversion therapy, with 35% of patients referred to them from treatment from GPs and over 40% treated inside an NHS practice. this is why there's been calls for it to be made illegal. You can't be cured as in, because years ago, what they used to do years ago, you used to get electroshock therapy. They used to also, one of the techniques they would use is they would provide, if you went and said, I only want to be cured of my homosexuality, you would be given some erotic pictures as stimulants. You would be encouraged to masturbate, and they would also give you a drug which would make you be violently ill and also void your bowels. But you also had to masturbate at the same time. I think the theory was that it would reset your brain to finding those images repulsive. And, you know, like when you've had something to eat and it makes you really ill, and like the smell of it makes you feel sick and you think, oh, I can't eat that for a while. Kind of a little bit like that. Now, over the years, there have been a number of documentaries about gay cure therapy, particularly in America. I remember seeing one with Louis Theroux, and he interviewed a number of people who are offering the therapy, a number of people who've been through the therapy, and I think nearly everyone who'd been through the therapy was like, it doesn't work. I'm gay. I am who I am. It's not something that can be cured. If you have been considering it, or there's people talking about it and you want a bit more information, then do contact Stonewall's information service on 08000 502 020 or email info@stonewall.org.uk or head to the website stonewall.org.uk. There's information on there. There's a contact form where you can get in touch with someone and talk about it with a professional.
This is KCC Live.
Some really interesting things there. So it's not all doom and gloom, and there are a lot of charities that can help people who are confused, who aren't sure about their feelings. It's not just churches and gay conversion therapy. We have some amazing LGBT plus charities in the UK and the world. The UK, we've got places like the LGBT Foundation, we've got the Proud Trust, which used to be LGBT Youth North West. We've got Pride, we've got Stonewall, we've got places like Minds as well. They're not LGBT centric, but they still deal with a lot of feelings like that. We've got the Rainbow Project. There's plenty. There's charities like Mermaids and stuff for trans people. There's a lot of other trans charities out there. A quick Google and I assure you, you will find dozens and dozens and dozens. I will also pop the details up for various LGBT plus charities and mindful charities as well, mental health charities, on our Facebook page. If you search Out There on Facebook, you'll find us. We've got a picture, it's a nice little rainbow picture of me pointing to the KCC Live sign at the moment. That may change, but it will still involve rainbows more than likely. You can also email us as well, amy@kcclive.com. If you've got anything that you want to say about the show, anything you want to hear us talk about, hear us cover, any important topics to you, let us know. You can always send us an email and drop us a line. So we also got Dean in. Now, Dean works in our station. He is awesome, if I do say so myself. You can pay me later, Dean. But he really is, and he's only 15, would you believe? And when I'm talking to him, I don't feel like I'm talking to a 15-year-old because he's so mature. He really is. But he gives us a really interesting view from school. Obviously, he's of school age, and quite often I'll ask him, I'm like, what is there in your school to cover these things? And he's saying, like, there's a lot of equality and diversity being pushed in schools nowadays. He's saying, like, there's big posters up and stuff about different types of families and that these things are acceptable, and same-sex families, things like that. So it's really good to see that we are starting to include things like that in school. I think we've still got quite a way to go, and we definitely need to start bringing in more education for relationships in general, as well as LGBT+, but it's nice to see that we've got to start. So this is what Dean had to say.
Hi, it's Gabby and I'm here with Dean. Dean, I'd like to start by talking about Section 28.
So you might not know what Section 28 is, as it was took out of Parliament in 2003, but for those of you who don't know, Section 28 was also known as Clause 28, and it was introduced in 1988 by Margaret Thatcher and the Conservative government at the time, and it meant that local authorities couldn't promote homosexuality or publish any material with the intention of promoting it. This also affected schools, and schools were unable to address the subject of homosexuality or promote it as an accepted form of relationship. As I said, it was scrapped as a policy in 2003 for the whole of the UK, and in 2000 in Scottish Parliament. The law was extremely damaging, particularly to young LGBT people, as it gave them they had no support in the schools, which is somewhere they're supposed to feel safe and free of judgment, and that they're supposed to be accepted there. It gave them the idea that they were somehow wrong, their personality and who they were as a person was wrong and wasn't allowed to be discussed or promoted. The fact that there was a law against it and promoting the sexuality made them feel like second-class citizens.
See, that's just horrible, because nowadays you go into school and you're made to think that you can go and speak to your teacher about anything.
Yeah, in my school at the moment, for those of you who don't know, I'm 15, and in my school we're doing something called the Equality Board, which means we're trying to make the school a more equal place, and we're putting posters up talking about different types of families. So it's not just we've got a big poster in school and it says all families are appreciated and accepted, 2 dads, 2 mums, could be mum and mum's boyfriend. It doesn't have to, it's not just fitting the stereotype of mum and dad in modern society. So Gabby's got a few more things to talk about.
Yeah, I was looking at a few LGBT events that have changed history and sort of made our world the way it is today. And one that stuck out to me was in 1992, the World Health Organization declassified the same-sex attraction as a mental illness, which it's just mad to think that it was considered a mental illness in the first place. But before it was established, there was therapists who used aversion therapy, as it was seen in the film A Clockwork Orange, if anyone's seen it, to try and cure male homosexuality, which is just horrible to read about anyway. They'd show patients pictures of naked men while giving them electric shocks or drugs to make them vomit at the same time, to try and get them out of the way they were thinking, apparently. And after that was absolutely unbearable for them, they'd show them pictures of naked women or send them out on a date with a young nurse. I think we can agree that none of the methods really worked effectively, because there wouldn't be as many homosexuality there is today if it did work. But I definitely think something like this wouldn't have happened in our day and age, at least not openly anyway. We're in more of a accepting environment, I think, but we still have a long way to go for it to be completely
definitely
all right,
accepted.
Yeah.
And I think it's just disgusting to hear some of the things that they did back in those days for people who were just being themselves. Yeah. Questioning your sexuality, identity, or feeling like you don't know what direction to take in your life in general, it can be frustrating and it can bring on a lot of unwanted anxiety and stress, especially for people who aren't that comfortable with expressing themselves. But there are different techniques that you can use that should make you feel less stressed and are more optimistic and positive. So one of these techniques is really simple, but has also proven to be really effective. This is called mindfulness, and it's basically taking time out from the hectic lifestyle we lead in modern society to appreciate the world around us, paying attention to our thoughts and feelings, and basically taking some time to sit down and reflect on how we're actually feeling, what we're thinking, and things like that. It's been described by some medical professionals as a way to reconnect with our bodies and the sensations they experience, like the sights, the sounds, tastes, etc. The NHS has said that mindfulness and other relaxation techniques can greatly improve our mental well-being. I think it's important to just take some time out from time to time to relax and reflect on things that have happened, or even just on your inner thoughts at the time. Holistic therapy is another way that some people manage stress, and it's a form of healing that considers the whole person and their inner feelings rather than something like just physical that's wrong with them. So they take into account the mind, body and spirit as well. So those who use holistic therapy believe that these 3 things must be balanced, and if one part isn't working as it should, the other parts will be affected too. So for example, someone may seek holistic healing for a migraine, and whereas a normal doctor may give them just medication is used in holistic treatment, but they also suggest lifestyle modifications like better sleep patterns and changes to your diet and things like that to get rid of the migraine. Holistic medicine is also based on the belief that unconditional love and support is the most powerful healer, and ultimately a person is responsible for his or her own health. Another type of therapy that comes under this bracket and has grown in popularity in recent years is meditation. Meditation is a relaxation technique, and I guess it's quite similar to mindfulness in that they both aim to make someone feel deeply relaxed. But whereas mindfulness wants the person to think about their thoughts and feelings more, meditation focuses more on getting away from the mind, that you're always overthinking things and things like that. And it's more about cleansing the mind and making yourself feel more calm. It's also quite a religious technique, so Buddhists use this a lot as a method of relaxation, as well as in Hinduism and even sometimes in Christianity. Some people can listen to calmer music while meditating, and others might just do it themselves. It really depends on the person. So one trend I've seen at the moment on YouTube is ASMR videos. So some of you may have also seen. Some of you may have seen these online. Have you seen them, Gabby?
I've seen a few of them. Yeah, I haven't actually watched them now.
Personally, I'll be honest, I'm not like a big fan of them myself. But they do help for some people. You know, some people have said that they help me sleep and them kinds of things. But if you don't know anything about ASMR, it basically stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. And they have become quite popular. They started out as like a small YouTube community, and now they've grown. And some of the bigger YouTubers are doing them nowadays. So basically, it's just someone could be doing anything in the video, just like talking to the camera. And they'll be talking like quietly and kind of whispering, which is supposed to like trigger relaxation. And they'll also make like noises like tapping, or say if they're like going through a book or something, they could be like flicking the pages, and it's like the sound is supposed to be quite therapeutic to people. So it doesn't particularly work for me personally, but I've heard about people who it does work for. So that could be something that works for you. So another form of alternative therapy is Reiki, which I hope I'm pronouncing right. It's basically one person passing on positive vibes, positive spiritual energy to another person. And having positive spiritual energy seems to be something that's mentioned with a lot of these therapies. And it's something that's very important to people who use holistic therapy and coping strategies. Another similar thing to this is crystals that are supposed to channel positive moods and energies, such as feeling calm and bringing out different personality traits. For example, ametrine, which is obviously a type of crystal, is meant to channel optimism, and rose quartz is meant to channel love and peace. So personally, if you're not into meditation, like I'm not really a fan of meditation personally. I find it doesn't really work for me, and I'm a massive worrier. Like I worry about things that you shouldn't really even worry about, like the littlest of things. So personally, what I do if I'm feeling a little bit stressed, or just want to relax or whatever, I put on like a comedy show that I like and that I enjoy. If you aren't into holistic therapies like me, that might work for you. Or even just it doesn't have to be comedy. Like obviously, I find that comedy takes your mind off things, so that's why I think it's quite useful. But it could just be any show that you watch. Like I'm a big fan of Doctor Who. Like it could be something like that, or I know Game of Thrones and things like that are very popular, so you could watch something like that if you're a fan of them. Also, I find writing very therapeutic. Even if you just write, it doesn't have to be like a novel, you know what I mean? Like you can just write like a poem, or little things like that, little short stories. And this doesn't particularly work for me because I'm not good at art. So I just find it like annoying. I'm like, why can't I draw? But my best friend, she is really good at art and she really enjoys drawing. So she finds it like really good to paint or draw and things like that. And I've also seen this is a trend that's been going around the past couple of years. The adult colouring books. You can get different theme ones. I've got the Doctor Who one.
You don't really have to be good to draw.
Yeah, exactly.
It just puts your concentration somewhere else.
Yeah, and I've seen people who've said that, if they've put their concentration into one particular thing, like sewing or knitting, they can be another way to release like anxiety and stress and stuff.
You're learning something new as well.
Yeah, you're learning something new, and you're putting all your concentration into one thing. Even puzzles as well, like crosswords and word searches and that kind of thing.
Definitely.
But no matter what stressful situation you find yourself in, my personal advice would be to try some things out and do whatever works best for you. Don't think, this works for such and such a person. It might not work for you. But as I said, there's loads of different things that you can do. Even just finding a new hobby.
Yeah.
Could be, or listening to music. That's another one that I enjoy. So do whatever works best for you, and make sure you talk to someone about it. Don't keep it all bottled up.
Definitely.
Talk to someone, or could be your friend, could be your mum and dad, or whoever at home. Could be just someone you trust.
Yeah.
So just make sure you talk about it. And have you got any?
Well, the same really. Like, I think speaking to someone about whatever's going on in your head, and because you can't just keep it inside you, because one day it'll just hit you, it'll get too much for you. So definitely to speak to someone.
Yeah,
I'd say.
I'd recommend the same.
The Station with Attitude. KCC Live.
Hi, welcome back. You're listening to Amy on Out There on KCC Live. Thank you so much for talking to us, Dean, and sharing your ideas and opinions. Dean also covered a few alternative therapies and things there, and historic stuff like Section 28. We're going to cover the alternative therapies a little bit later as well, so stay tuned for that. Going back to the gay cure therapies and things like Section 28 and stuff, I was looking at how we treat gay people around the world, and not just gay, just LGBT in general, and I had a little nose on the likes of Pink News and things like that, and there was a few interesting stories. So after this song, I'm going to read some out here, and you can even let me know what you think about it on Facebook. If you search for us, KCC Live, we're up there. Also Out There as well, that's our show's Facebook. Also, we've now got all of our shows up on podcast on YouTube, so you can check them out as well. So we've got a bit of a backlog of the show. So if you're bored and you want something to put on in the background, feel free to give us a listen. Just again, search for Out There and you will find us. You can also email us, amy@kcclive.com, and tell us what you think. More after this.
The Station with Attitude. KCC Live.
Hi, welcome back. You're listening to Amy on Out There on KCC Live. So I took a little look at the way various LGBT plus people are treated around the world, and I found a story about the media's favourite gay cure advocate, Dr. Mike Davidson. This is on Pink News, and actually they found out he's not a real doctor. So the story goes that the media's favourite advocate for gay cure therapy, Dr. Mike Davidson, has no medical qualifications whatsoever. Davidson, the head of fringe Christian group, the Core Issues Trust, has been interviewed more than a dozen times by major media outlets over the past year, expressing his belief that gay people can be cured. The advocate for the controversial practice, which has been disavowed by nearly every major medical and psychological authority, has been given a platform on national television, including ITV's Good Morning Britain last September. But although presenters regularly introduce the activist as Dr. Mike Davidson, he does not possess any medical or psychological qualifications. I must admit, as someone who's studying, I actually find that quite offensive. Like, people work hard to become doctors. Don't just name yourself one. Never mind what you're saying you're a doctor in. And I'm disappointed at the media as well, surprise, surprise, that they even give people like this a platform to spew hate when there's not a whole lot behind it. He's not even a real doctor, and yet we let him talk about gay cure. I'm not convinced, to be honest. You know, if you're going to give information, at least let it be coming from a place of knowledge. But maybe that's why we haven't got real doctors that talk about gay conversion. Maybe there isn't much knowledge behind it. I know, going back, like, there's been various studies and stuff done. If you look at the Kinsey scale, it was a study that was done by a man named Kinsey. There's also a film on it, which apparently is a really good watch. I've been meaning to get round to watching it forever, and I still haven't, so I can't even give you a proper review. I promise I will get round to watching it. But basically, he says he tested a lot of people. It was sailors, if I remember rightly, about, you know, their feelings on homosexuality, and he'd give them questionnaires and things and asked. And he was a genuine, like, psychologist. He genuinely gathered this data over years and years and years, and the Kinsey Institute is still going now. It's still researching. So, you know, if you're going to call yourself a doctor or something like that, do some research. That's my sort of bottom line on that. Moving on to that though, there was another story recently in the media that definitely caught my attention, and unfortunately it's for all the wrong reasons, as it always is. Another Pink News article just summing it up. So it's about the whistleblower, Sashmir Sani. I'm sorry if I didn't say that right, but I don't really know the pronunciation very well. He says he wants to take legal action against number 10 Downing Street after he was outed by Theresa May's political secretary. Speaking to The Guardian, Sani revealed that he has nothing left to lose. He explained, "It's been so much to deal with. I've had to cope with the repercussions on me and my family of being outed against my will, and now I've lost the job. It'd be a lot for anyone to cope with." Theresa May's special advisor Stephen Parkinson came under fire last month after he put out a statement via Downing Street revealing the sexuality of the former Brexit campaigner Sani, who came forward to expose alleged irregularities in the Vote Leave campaign. Sani, who volunteered for the supposedly independent Believe group, named Parkinson as one of the Vote Leave officials who secretly guided their campaign in violating of electoral rules. Now, I don't want to get political about this because Brexit is a whole other show, and that's a messy show, but never ever ever is it okay to out someone without their permission. Never. End of. I don't care if you're outing them as gay, I don't care if you're outing them as trans, I don't care if you're outing them as bi, I don't care what you're outing them as. It's not okay. It's not your information to give. It's another one of them consent things that we don't seem to understand, that it's your information and you need to give consent for other people to share that. If you're sharing someone else's personal information, you're breaking that consent. That's not cool. And I was disgusted, I must admit, when I seen this. I was like, I can't believe that they're using these sort of dirty tactics by trying to slay someone giving out their sexuality, when actually it doesn't matter if he's gay, if he's straight. Doesn't matter. That's not the point. So I really do think there's something rooted in there personally, like as a slur almost, you know, sort of trying to make him sound like he's not as good as they think he is. Like he hasn't got as much integrity because he wasn't out. I know for a fact as well his family are from Pakistan, and the sort of the way that the culture there as well looks on LGBT people is different. I know he's had a lot of issues with like extended family and things like that, and it just doesn't seem right. If, you know, we shouldn't be outing people. Anyway, after this, we're going to have a look at a couple of news stories from other places around the world. And I promise it's not all doom and gloom. There are some good stories as well. Stay tuned, more after this.
The Station with Attitude. KCC Live.
Hi, welcome back. You're listening to Amy on Out There on KCC Live. So just looking at a few different stories throughout the media that, you know, represent the LGBT plus community. So here's one that it's not the most positive, but I promise there are some positive ones as well. Gay sex in Indonesia will not be publicly punished with lashings anymore, but men will still receive the punishment behind closed doors. Aceh, the only region of the secular country where Sharia law is in effect, will continue to conduct the barbaric practice, which saw 2 men caned 83 times last year for consensual sex. Earlier this month, a gay man and a transgender woman were arrested for having gay sex and face a similar punishment. It really astounds me that in this day and age there's still people that are being punished for such things. It seems so trivial, yet a lot of people take it really seriously with their religion, and I think it's time that we stopped imposing our religions on other people. Your religion is okay, you are welcome to have your religion, but it shouldn't oppress other people, and that's where the problem is, and that's where things like this in Indonesia, it makes people behind. It really does. It puts us behind. Another one was a more upbeat story I found was about Poland, and they could vote for their first openly gay president during the next election. So Poland's existence under an anti-LGBT plus administration could be drawn to a close as an openly gay presidential candidate offers up a fervent fight for leadership. Current polls indicate that 1 in 4 Poles. That means 2 things. Sorry, that's really confusing. Current polls, as in we did a poll, can indicate 1 in 4 Poles, as in people from Poland, intend to vote for the left-wing candidate Robert Biedroń, who entered his political career as an LGBT plus activist. Biedroń, who's the mayor of Słupsk, I hope I said that right, a town with population of 98,000 in northern Poland, is considered a strong contender to current president Gestura. I hope, again, apologies for the pronunciation. So it's nice to see that whilst some places are unfortunately behind the gay rights, others are, they're coming forward. Another story talks about how gay men in Tasmania can now get their historical gay sex convictions expunged. This also happened in the UK and in Scotland recently. Gay men in Tasmania can now apply to have historical convictions from homosexual acts erased from their criminal records. The process began in 2015, but it's slow going, with an apology only issued in 2017. As I said, we also had this happen in Scotland recently, and an apology as well. And you know what? So it should be. It's about time. Finally, I got one more for you, right? The Bishop of Liverpool, who I'm actually quite a fan of, I must admit, because he seems really open-minded and he's ready to embrace all people. But anyway, he says the Church of England should lose right to discriminate against gay people. Well, yeah, I think I agree with that. A second Church of England bishop has called for the institution to lose a legal right to discriminate against gay people. The Church is legally exempt from the 2010 Equality Act's anti-discrimination protections, which bans other bodies from discriminating based on a range of protected characteristics, including sexual orientation and gender reassignment. The opt-out was intended to allow the Church to selectively hire Christians without legal impediment, but has recently been deployed by the Church to quash a discrimination case brought by a gay hospital chaplain. Canon Jeremy Pemberton took legal action when the Church revoked his permission to officiate as punishment for marrying his long-term partner, effectively sacking him for the NHS job role. Now, while that is not a good story, I think the fact that the bishop is getting involved and saying no, we shouldn't discriminate against LGBT plus people, I feel like that's a positive thing, and he's trying to sort of pave the way there. It's interesting to see how far we've come, but at the same time there are a lot of countries where you can still be punished severely just for being a part of the LGBT plus spectrum. Like, there's a Guardian article about this, and it says that gay relationships are still criminalised in 72 countries. 72 countries in the world, can you believe that? 50 years after Britain's partial decriminalisation of homosexuality in 8 countries, it can still result in the death penalty. That in itself is unreal. 50 years after homosexuality was decriminalised in England and Wales, 72 other countries and territories worldwide continue to criminalise same-sex relationships, including 45 in which sexual relationships between women are outlawed. There are 8 countries in which homosexuality can result in a death penalty, and dozens more in which homosexual acts can result in a prison sentence, according to an annual report by the International Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Trans and Intersex Association. Southern and Eastern Africa, the Middle East and South Asia persists with the most draconian approaches. Western Europe and the Western Hemisphere the most tolerant. But Britain was by no means a forerunner when it moved 50 years ago. It's partly discriminalised homosexuality. Some 20 other countries have already led the way, including France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Brazil and Argentina, all of whom had legalised it well before 1900, so really we are still behind. In Iran, Sudan, Saudi Arabia and Yemen, homosexuality is still punishable by death under Sharia law. That's got to be wrong. The same applies in parts of Somalia and northern Nigeria. In 2 other countries, Syria and Iraq, the death penalty is carried out by non-state actors, including Islamic State. The record notes that although the potential exists for a death penalty to be handed down under Sharia law courts, in at least 5 other countries, Pakistan, Afghanistan, the UAE, Qatar and Mauritania, there is no evidence suggesting that it's been implemented for consensual same-sex acts between adults in private. So although this does say about it, it's saying there's no real sort of examples, if you like, in recent history. Same-sex relations, which are vicariously criminalised under laws, cover sodomy, buggery and acts against nature, amongst others, could lead to a prison sentence in 71 states in all. However, this number excludes Egypt, where same-sex relations are technically legal but are vigorously pursued, and where hundreds of people are reported to be detained on morality grounds. So that's another way that people seem to get around it as well. Altogether, more than 120 countries have decriminalised homosexuality, but some still cannot be described as liberal. Russia, for example, has recently introduced laws banning the promotion of homosexuality. Again, it sounds like Section 28 that Dean was talking about before. It's unreal to imagine this in the world, that people are still being persecuted just because they love who they love. Like, it's unreal. Anyway, gonna have a little look at mental health next, so listen up because there is more after this.
The Station with Attitude, KCC Live.
Hi, welcome back. You're listening to Amy on Out There on KCC Live. So moving on from LGBT plus people and the world, we wanted to also talk a little bit about mental health and LGBT plus mental health as well. So there is a page about this on Minds. Minds are a great charity that deal with mental health issues and problems. And their page says that some of us identify ourselves as LGBTQ, which means we may be lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer or questioning. There's also that whole plus thing in there. I don't know if it's that they just don't include the plus, or I'm not sure, but believe me, you're under that scale. Or we may define our gender and sexuality in other ways. There you go. They covered it. Well done. LGBT plus people can be at a higher risk of experiencing a mental health problem than the wider population. If you are LGBTQ and have experienced mental health issues, you are not alone. You may find you experience depression, anxiety, suicidal feelings. They have pages on depression, anxiety and suicidal feelings. I definitely recommend you check them out if you're ever feeling that way. If you go onto mind.org.uk, it's a great website. They also have phone numbers that you can contact. The reasons for this are complex and not yet fully understood. However, mental health problems experienced by LGBT plus people have been linked to discrimination, bullying, homophobia, biphobia or transphobia. You may also experience rejection, negative reactions or hostility from family members, friends, strangers, employers or members of the religious community. This can have a big impact on your self-esteem and mean that you might feel unable to be open about your sexual or gender identity at work, at home or in the world at large. This can lead as well sometimes to things like gender dysphoria, where what you present to the outside world doesn't match how you feel inside with regards to your gender. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well here. There are, as I said, there's lots of amazing charities. We also recently covered males' mental health as well in our males' mental health show. So if that's something you're interested in, you can definitely check that out. You can go onto YouTube and we've got podcasts up there. Just search for Out There on YouTube and it should pop up. I'd definitely say anybody who is experiencing difficulties with things like anxiety, depression, especially suicidal feelings as well, go and talk to someone. I know that first step is the world's most giant step, but once you've done it, once you've got up that step, it's worth it. I promise you, talk to someone. There's also people like the Samaritans. If you don't want to meet someone face to face, you can chat to them online or you can chat to them over the phone. And they've got people there all the time. So I thought I'd give you a little overview of a few of the various mental health issues that seem to present themselves in the LGBT community. The first one's anxiety. So these are from the NHS website. So this is their sort of definition of anxiety. It's a feeling of unease, such as worry or fear, that can be mild or severe. Everyone has feelings of anxiety at some point in their life. For example, you may feel worried and anxious about sitting an exam or having a medical test or job interview. During times like these, feeling anxious can be perfectly normal. However, some people find it hard to control their worries. Their feelings of anxiety are more constant and can often affect their daily lives. Anxiety is a main symptom in several conditions, including panic disorders, phobias, post-traumatic stress disorders, and social anxiety disorders. Anxiety is a really big umbrella. There's a lot of things under it, and it's not just general anxiety. There can be a lot of different things, and it can be part of other things, because mental health, it's not always cut and dry. It's not always you have this one thing. But one thing's for sure, whilst you can get help, and there's different ways of getting help, different therapies, different ways of talking to people. Some people prefer medication. It's not a stigma anymore. It shouldn't be. It's not like you broke your arm and someone goes, oh, just don't have your arm broken, just if you try going for a walk, that's not the right attitude to have anymore, and I think we're definitely slowly, very, very slowly changing that. We're finding that a lot more workplaces, schools, colleges, things like that are a lot more supportive to people with mental health issues and problems. So I definitely suggest to anybody and encourage them to speak out. So the next one I want to look at is depression. Depression is more than simply feeling unhappy or fed up for a few days. Most people go through periods of feeling down, but when you're depressed, you feel persistently sad for weeks or months rather than just a few days. Some people think depression is trivial and not a genuine health condition. They're wrong. It's a real illness with real symptoms. Depression isn't a sign of weakness or something you can snap out of by pulling yourself together. The good news is that with the right treatment and support, most people with depression can make a full recovery. Don't get me wrong, it is not something that you can fix overnight. It really isn't. But for someone with depression, they can get better. They can seek help. Sometimes it's about self-help. Sometimes it's about going and speaking to someone. Again, sometimes it's about medication. There's an awful lot of things. And again, depression is that huge umbrella with a lot more things under it, and that links to a lot more things, the same as anxiety. The final sort of mental health issue, if you like, or problem that I wanted to cover isn't quite linked as much to depression and anxiety, although it can include it. And it's gender dysphoria, especially for people in the trans community. Gender dysphoria is a condition where a person experiences discomfort or distress because there's a mismatch between their biological sex and gender identity. I know I've spoken about this before, and I'm always referring to the genderbread man or person because they're amazing. Honestly, it's such a good tool to showing people the difference between sex and gender. And the way I've been sort of explaining it to people is your biological sex is what's between your legs. Your gender is what you feel that you are, like, inside. So that's your head. And then your sexual orientation are the people you love and you're attracted to, so that's your heart. And then, like, you've got the whole person all together. It's a really good resource, and I definitely recommend it. So anyway, moving on. It's sometimes known as gender identity disorder, gender incongruence, or transgenderism. Biological sex is assigned at birth, depending on the appearance of the genitals. Gender identity is the gender that a person identifies with or feels themselves to be. While biological sex and gender identity are the same for most people, it isn't the case for everyone. For example, some people may have the anatomy of a man but identify themselves as a woman, while others may not feel they're definitely either male or female. Again, it's something we talked about before, that it can be like a sliding scale rather than thinking of it as like black and white, sort of man, woman. There is definitely a sliding scale there. You get some more masculine men, you get some more feminine men, and you get people who are in the middle, same with women. Anyway, this mismatch between sex and gender identity can lead to distressing and uncomfortable feelings that are called gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is a recognised medical condition for which treatment is sometimes appropriate. Some people with gender dysphoria have a strong and persistent desire to live according to their gender identity rather than their biological sex. These people are sometimes called transsexual, which is quite an old term, or trans people, transgender. Some trans people have treatment to make their physical appearance more consistent with their gender identity. Honestly, my sort of feels on this are that you should be able to be the way you feel, because I can't imagine feeling that out of sync with myself, that I was in the wrong body, in the wrong gender. And I'll fully support anybody who believes that they should be able to transition, because whilst it's put under sort of mental health and things like that, I can see why it causes mental health issues. But I think just feeling like the gender that you believe you are isn't necessarily a mental health problem. But again, that's my opinion. Anyway, after this link, I'm going to talk a little bit about other therapies, including counselling. I'm going to give you a little overview of that. So listen up, there's more after this.
The Station with Attitude, KCC Live.
Hi, welcome back. You're listening to Amy on Out There on KCC Live. So I want to talk a little bit about counselling and therapies of the sort of talky kind. We're going to have a little look at alternative therapies as well after this. I've made it no secret that in the past I've studied psychology, and I am currently studying to be a counsellor. That is my aim, is to be an LGBT plus friendly counsellor, because I honestly see a gap there and I want to help. And I like talking to people, I like, finding out about them, and I like helping them. So that seemed to be what fitted me well. So I'm in my second year of study now, and I've got another year and then I'll be qualified, hopefully. So I'm going to try and not get too far down the rabbit hole with this, but bear with me because it is something I'm quite passionate about. So counselling, when you get sent for counselling, usually on the NHS, it's what we call CBT counselling, which is cognitive behavioural therapy. And basically the main aim for CBT is to help you identify your behaviours and potentially modify them and change them through different things like homework, things like that. And eventually you should come to your own realisation. Now, it's a little different from other types of counselling therapy because it involves a lot more sort of doing rather than talking through things and finding reasons. It's about changing behaviours rather than sort of looking at the reasons why we behave the way we do. It can also be a little bit sort of hard hitting and quick, but it's also very effective, which is why the NHS likes it. It can be really effective for some things, but others not so much, especially when there's underlying issues of things. So there's two other types of therapy, and there's loads and loads and loads of branches under these therapies as well. So I'm really giving you like a quick gloss over. There's psychodynamic counselling, which is when you think of things like Freud and this sort of older school level of counselling. They sort of believe that a lot of things are to do with childhood. I mean, Freud's theories are quite something, and I'm quite vocal about how I don't quite agree with a lot of his theories because a lot of it seems to go back to childhood and be quite sex obsessed. But some of the things he is spot on with, I think, and he gets them right, but not all things. And then you've got psychodynamic therapy and counselling, which is something that interests me the most, admittedly. And that's more sort of in the now. It's in the here and now, and we look at the behaviour now. And, we see the things that have surrounded that and triggered that. So it's kind of in the middle, I think, of psychodynamic and CBT. I mean, if you don't believe that, please come and correct me and check it out on the internet and stuff. You can send me an email, amy@kcclive.com. I do love talking counselling. You know what? I would recommend any type of counselling and talk therapy, because at the end of the day, if you're opening up and you're getting these things off your chest, it is going to help. Just make sure it's with someone who knows what they're doing, because it can sort of open up feelings and repressed memories and things. So it's definitely worth doing with a professional. There's reasons why people like me study. Also, I wanted to look a little bit at alternative therapies, and then we're going to finish off looking at mindfulness, I think. There's lots of different alternative therapies around there, some around full stop, around anywhere. Some of them I'm a bit of a skeptic with them, and I don't know if I believe in them or I don't believe in them really. I've never seen proof either way, I suppose. So things like Reiki, crystal therapy and things like that, I think a lot of it as well can be sort of psychosomatic, but in a good way. So it's like, you believe good things will come your way and good things will come your way. You believe it's going to cure and help you. It probably will help to cure and help you as long as you've got the will to do it. That's my personal stance, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that anyway after this.
This is KCC Live.
Hi, welcome back. You're listening to Amy on Out There on KCC Live. So I want to talk a little bit about alternative therapies next. I found a little list on truthandhealth.com, which is a website on the internet, and it talks about the most popular alternative therapies. So the first one it comes under is homeopathy. So it says that basically people use herbal remedies. So I think there's quite a bit of truth in this one, I must admit. Like, I know myself, things like lavender can make me feel more relaxed, things like that. I know that certain sort of plants and things can really help with certain ailments and illnesses. And at the end of the day, a lot of the actual sort of what we class as medication, a lot of it does have plant bases and parts of plants in it. So that's homeopathy. And then it says hypnosis. So basically with hypnosis, you're put into like an altered state of consciousness. It's not always like a pocket watch, like what people think of, the you are getting sleepy. It's not always like that. It can be just like a really deep relaxation and stuff like that. The next one's yoga. So yoga is sort of a form of exercise, and it can help apparently reduce stress, ease depression, and helps control blood pressure and diabetes symptoms. So again, it's a nice chilled one to help us calm down. Guided imagery. Now, I'd never heard of this one before, so I'm just going to read the blurb on this one. It says, with little to no risk at all, visualization or guided imagery is a practice most popular with patients living with cancer, stroke victims, and those who suffer from anxiety, worry, insomnia, and stress. Doctors direct patients to focus on a specific image or concept to improve the connection between the mind and body. In medical studies, brain scans of patients who follow this practice show that visualizing an activity promotes the same brain activity as actually performing the activity. So I don't know if it works because it gets the brain going and thinking and focusing, or I don't know, like if you trick yourself into thinking that you're doing the thing you're doing. I'm not sure. Next one, I hope I pronounced this rightly. It's Ayurveda. And again, another one I've never heard of, so I'm going to read it out for you. For thousands of years, rooted in India, but spreading across the world, Ayurveda is a study and practice of herbs, diet, breathing, massage, medication to treat the whole self and restore balance to the body. There's a focus on the person as a whole and the environment, the body constitution, and the changing of the seasons. So that one's, it takes a lot of things in there, and it's about balance and things like mind, body, spirit sort of thing. The next one's massage. I love a good massage, I am not going to lie. I would recommend a good massage to anybody. And it's not just for relaxation, it can be a really crucial part of health and wellness as well, especially if you've got muscle tension and pain. I know that a few years ago I was in a car crash, and it left my back a bit broke. Not broke as in like my back's broke, but very, very sore. And I went for physio and like sports massage, and I used to feel like I used to go and get beaten up. Like I'd come home and I'd have to take painkillers because she beat me up. But I tell you what, a day or so later I could feel it like easing me back and stuff, just working through the muscles. So I definitely recommend sports massage and things like that. From my own personal experience, I think it's to do with like the build up of lactic acid in your muscles, and it can help sort of break that down and ease it. And it did, and although I still have a sore back on occasion, it's nothing like what it was. So my own personal experience, I can definitely recommend massage for that, and for just relaxing and feeling good, and you know, time to focus and stop doing anything, which I think is a big thing in a lot of this. We're all so busy in our lives. We've all got 12 plates that we're spinning, 13, 14, 15 plates we're spinning at once. We very rarely stop and just focus on one thing. We're going to talk about this a little bit more later, actually, with mindfulness, because that very much goes into focusing. Anyway, the next one is meditation and spiritual practice. So, more than 10% of the US population is meditated or is meditating regularly. Though there are dozens of different types of meditation techniques, very few have actually proven to have clinical success in boosting immune function, decreasing chronic illness conditions, and raise feel-good hormone levels. You know, again, I think it's one of them focusing things, isn't it? It's the stopping. It's the sort of taking some time to sort of center yourself, not focus on 55 billion things at once. Spinal manipulation is the next one, and it's actually chiropractic. Now, this one's a bit of a borderline one because it is actually still classed as an alternative medication, would you believe? But we do use it. We use it in like normal sort of medical practice, if you like, and it can be very, very effective. Again, herbal medicines and essential oils. Now, I know personally, as I said, things like lavender will calm me down. I had a essential oils humidifier in my room, and it was lovely. Like, you could put the different sorts of essential oils into it and water, and it would sort of diffuse that through the room. So I'd put lavender or rose in when I wanted to feel more relaxed. I'd put something like lemongrass in when I wanted to be more energized. It was lovely. I really enjoyed it. The only thing I will comment on it though is that some people are allergic to essential oils and can be really allergic. So unfortunately I had to stop using my humidifier because my other half was quite allergic and would get itchy eyes and stuff. So it was either the humidifier or him. And I mean, it was a close call, but in the end I decided he keeps me warmer in bed. So he got to stay and the humidifier had to go. Yeah, I'm going to get in trouble for that one, but never mind. The next one is acupuncture. So that's little thin tiny needles, usually on like pulse points and stuff, different parts of the body, energy points. It's to do with chi and things like that. The only thing, again, that I'd recommend with acupuncture is don't forget, there are the chances of contamination because you are breaking the skin. So that is something that you should be careful about. But it is supposed to be really effective. I've not tried it, so I couldn't really tell you. And the final one is something I'd not come across, like, named properly before, but I had seen people do. And it's called the emotional freedom technique. Also known as EFT and tapping. It's been used mainly by holistic practitioners and medical doctors, practicing both as well. Tapping's a very powerful effect when used regularly. It uses the same acupuncture points but without needles. Instead, all that's needed is a gentle tapping on the points with your fingers. This will stimulate the points and clean up the energy system. Again, I'm not sure. I've never used it, so until I could find someone that had used it and genuinely found that it helped, then jury's out sort of thing. Also, the fact that, as I was saying before, if you want to help yourself, you want help, then doing good things will help, but it may not be that, that lavender oil magically de-stresses you. It could be that you like the smell and you stop to smell it to take some time to enjoy it. You've gone to yourself, I'm going to chill in this space now because I've got my lavender, and you sort of associate it. So I'm not sure about alternative therapies. If you've got any experience with stuff like that and you want to share it, feel free to talk to us on Facebook. If you check out OUTTHERE on Facebook, we are there. You can like us and talk to us and chat to us. You can also email me, amy@kcclive.com. I love a good chinwag and a good conversation, and I love learning new stuff. So if you've got any experience, by all means, come and share it. You can also check out our YouTubes as well, just saying, if you fancy listening to our back catalogue of shows. So next up, I want to talk a little bit about mindfulness. This is quite a recent thing for me, personally experiencing it, because it wasn't something I was aware of, but the more I hear about it, the more I like the sound of it. So stay tuned, because there is more after this.
This is KCC Live.
Hi, welcome back. You're listening to Amy on OUTTHERE on KCC Live. So, touching on mindfulness, just coming to the end of the show now, and it's probably the last topic that we're going to cover. Mindfulness is something that I've only recently come across personally, but I must admit I like the premise and the idea. So there is mindful.org, which website is great. It's got lots of various things and bits and stuff that you can check out on there. And basically what they say about mindfulness is that it's a pretty straightforward